And good evening, Pittsburgh Steelers fans. Welcome to another episode of Steelers Friday Night Six Pack. I am your host, as always, Tony Defio, and I thank you for joining me on this rather hot and humid, excuse me, night in Pittsburgh, PA. It's currently Friday night if you're watching or live, and wherever you are right now. A little cooler, but not too bad. And if I look or sound like I'm miserable because of this heat, just remind me of how miserable I looked and sounded a few months ago when it was cold and I was complaining about that, or maybe a couple weeks ago when it was raining and I was complaining about that. So I guess I'm a four-season person. I hate all four of them. Actually, I'm looking forward to the summer as I get older. Winter is something I look forward to less and less, and summer is something I look forward to more and more. So I hope it's a lovely day or night wherever you are right now. And before I continue, I would like to please ask you to like and subscribe to our Behind the Steel Curtain YouTube channel. We bring you live shows each and every day and night. We brought you two shows on Friday. We have Touchdown Under with Matty Pepperall and Mark Davison. That was at 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And, of course, this show right now, the Six Pack. But we have plenty of shows every day. And we have The Hangover on Monday with Shannon White and Brian Anthony Davis and yours truly. We have Steelers Preview every Thursday with Jeff Hartman, Dave Schofield, and Brian. We have Know Your Enemy or The Curtain Call with Jeffrey Benedict and Shannon White every Wednesday. Boy, I'm going out of sequence. It's all right. I'm left-handed. We have the Scobro Show every Tuesday night with Dave Schofield and his big brother, Rich. We have We Run the North with Tate Boys. Am I missing anything? I'm sure I am. We have just so many shows. And you can catch all those shows. Bad language, Steelers Q&A. The list goes on and on. But you can catch all those shows live also on Facebook. And as I say every Friday, please be nice, because I know how Facebook is. I know how you are on Facebook. You're always ready to pounce. You're always ready to be angry. But just be nice. Don't worry, be happy. And, of course, you can catch all those live shows after the fact. If you don't feel it, if you can't catch them live, if you don't want to look at my face, even though let me look at these cheekbones. I mean, can they get any better? Anyway, if you don't want to look at my face live or anybody else's face live, or maybe you're just busy, or maybe our faces are too nice that you can't bear to watch them and you have to listen to them, you can catch all of our live shows on any audio platform of your choosing. I personally enjoy iHeartRadio. That's my favorite. I have it on my Roku stick. And if I want to listen to one of our podcasts, I plop down on my recliner, and I check the show out on iHeartRadio. But there's any place where you can find audio podcasts, you can find Behind Steel Curtain. And please check out our audio only shows that we bring you each and every week, including Let's Ride with Jeff Hartman, The Stat Geek with Dave Schofield, What You's Talking About with Kyle Kreis, the half hour, the Steelers half hour power hour. I get that one wrong every week. That's with Chris Pugh. I think that's how you say his name. If not, I apologize. From the Cutting Room Floor with Jeffrey Benedict. Did I mention the live mic with Michael Beck? I think I did. But if I didn't, please check that out. And the War Room with Matty Pepperall. And there are more of those shows too. So please check all those shows out on, again, any audio platform of your choosing. And please check out Behind Steel Curtain, the website where we bring you news, commentary, film breakdown. As we like to say, it's your one-stop shop for all your Steelers needs, so you will not be sorry. And let's check out the live chat on this lovely Friday night. And I saw it when I was getting ready to go live. Jared Devil was number one, so welcome, Jared Devil. Steeler Chick 46, George Teston, a lot of familiar faces here. Well, I skipped ahead too quickly. Steelers Pittsburgh, Kathy Forred, Steeler Chick 46. I might have said that already. Ryan O'Toole, who says, Happy Friday. Yes, happy Friday. Although it's not my Friday. It's more like my Tuesday or Wednesday, but that's all right. I enjoy my schedule, so it's always a great Friday. And I think that's it for now. All right, so our crew is in place. Hope hopefully more will join me. But if not, you always have later on to join the show after the fact. So it's not a whole lot of crazy news. This is more of a down time of the year, but the Steelers did have their rookie camp this past week, the 13th through the 15th, I believe. And as the title says, it went off without a hitch. There really was nothing noteworthy, which I think it's a good thing, and it's multi-layered. Obviously, the first reason why it's a good thing is there were no major injuries. And if you don't think major injuries can occur or can't occur when you're practicing without pads and you're just going through walkthroughs and everything, well, that's happened in the past. I remember, I'm drawing a blank. Byron Batch. I didn't think I'd have to write it down because that was a famous one. I don't know if it was rookie camp. I think it was OTAs, or maybe it was minicamp. But anyway, everybody was excited about him when he was drafted. I believe in 2012 he was a late round pick, but people were in love with the kind of player the running back Byron Batch could be, and he suffered a torn ACL in a non-contact drill. And I mean, he was never really the same. I'm not sure if he even played after that. He might have, but he's now a well-known artist. So that was great that no injuries happened with the rookie mini camp or rookie camp. And another great thing, and I want to write about this at some point, is you didn't hear any, like I talked about last week, you didn't hear any reports about any of these players, namely quarterback Kenny Pickett, the first round pick out of Pitt, being, having that deer in the headlights look. You always hear reports about that. I shouldn't say always, but every so often you hear about that at a rookie camp. You certainly hear about it a lot at training camp, but the fact that they got through that first rookie camp without those kind of reports about Pickett or anybody else, that they were so far behind or they looked lost, or the moment was too big for them, if you will, that was good news, because that's you want these guys to get up to speed as quickly as possible. I know it's impossible for it to happen. They're going to have growing pains, every single one of them, including Pickett. They're going to have growing pains. They're going to have times when they're doubting themselves. It might be right now where they're doubting themselves. I mean, as they're trying to learn the playbook, as they're getting to know their coaches, and we've all been new on the job, me multiple times, and you just feel it's common to feel lost and behind and like you're never going to get it. So I'm sure they're feeling that right now, but hopefully it doesn't manifest itself on the field too much. It's going to, but not too much. But, I enjoyed listening to these guys being interviewed, namely Kenny Pickett and Calvin Austin, the third, the receiver out of Memphis, who they drafted in the third round. I enjoyed listening to them talk to the media. I thought Pickett looked fairly poised, talking to reporters. I mean, he's clearly comfortable with the surroundings. He's been in Pittsburgh since 2017 as a member of the Pitt Panthers. So, he just moved his locker a few feet. He's wearing different attire, but it's the football home he's known since he was a teenager. So it's probably not surprising that he looked comfortable talking to reporters. He probably knows a lot of the reporters that he was talking to. Calvin Austin impressed me. I thought he showed a lot of character and poise, as these reporters kept asking him over and over again what it was like to be that small, coming out, playing big time, not big time college football, but Division I or whatever they call the top tier of college football now. He was 5'8", 170, and he had to answer that question over and over again. He had to answer all the questions about getting, the hardest hits that he suffered in college, because he's so small. And of course, he talked about so many of the college coaches that recruited him doubted whether he could survive at that level of college football because of his size, and they weren't really that impressed by his 4.3 speed because he was so small. They didn't think, according to him, they didn't think it mattered that he was that fast because he was so petite, if you will. So it was funny in a way watching him answer these questions and as far as Austin's size, I mean, it's nothing he can deal with in his rookie year. I mean, to expect these guys to come in and learn everything they have to learn as professionals in their very first year, learning the playbook, learning their fellow rookie teammates, and then of course learning how to get along and get familiar with their veteran teammates when they report, starting with OTAs and then minicamp and then of course training camp. Expecting them to do all that, and then also put on muscle and get bigger for the NFL. To expect that to happen in his first year, it's not going to happen. I mean, that's why you hear so many stories of players as soon as they hit their first off season. They get with a trainer, they find the nutritional program that works for them, and they start training hard and they either put on weight or they lose weight to get ready for their second season, because after their first season they realize what it takes to play at the NFL level. Not that they weren't in great shape coming into the NFL, but it's a completely different world when you're going from even the SEC to the NFL. I mean, Kenny Pickett, he might have the same home at Heinz Field as he, in the NFL as he did in college, but it might as well be a different planet when you're talking about playing, the North Carolina Tar Heels in the ACC versus the Baltimore Ravens in the NFL. You might be playing them on the same field within the same year, but it's a completely different planet, universe. So, who was it? Traylon Burks, the Titans first round pick, their rookie camp, I think it was last week. He had to go off the field several times because he was suffering from heat exhaustion. And you heard Mike Vrabel talking to the reporters after this occurred, and he was basically saying, look, these guys, they think they can put the work in by themselves before they get to camp, and they think they can come here and it's going to be the same way here when we get a hold of them, but it's not. It's even more intense than that. So all these guys are going to find out this year. Every draft pick in the NFL, every undrafted free agent in the NFL, but specifically the Steelers class, they're going to find out this year. Wow, there's so much more There's so much more to being a professional than we ever realized, including the physical price we're going to have to pay as far as getting in shape. So, to expect that to happen the first year with everything else they have to worry about, that's impossible. But there's a lot of stories of players coming in their second year looking totally different. Alex Highsmith, the third round pick in 2020 out of Charlotte. Last year, he was a great example of that. I mean, I was around last year at this time, and we started hearing the stories of him, the physical transformation from his first year, and you've heard other stories in the past. I know Bud Dupree, when he was drafted, between his first and second year, he lost a bunch of weight, because, the Steelers don't want their linebackers to be as big as they used to be in the James Harrison, Lamar Woodley, that era. They want them to be much smaller. They want them to be much better athletes, capable of doing a lot more as far as pass coverage and things of that nature. So Bud Dupree lost a bunch of weight, and you see it over and over again. Kendrick Green, who struggled mightily last year, especially down the stretch, so much so that he wasn't playing by the end of the year. It was an injury, but I'm sure there was more to it than just an injury. But you've seen stories of him working out this offseason with people like Marquise Pouncey. So these guys, they realize after their first year that they have to up their game quite a bit when it comes to their training. So somebody like Austin, look for him next year. If he has a decent enough rookie season to where he sticks around past training camp, which I have no doubt that he will. I mean, third round picks rarely get cut in training camp, so he's probably going to make the team. And I don't know what kind of contribution he's going to make this year, but provided he's back again next year, that's when you can expect to see him maybe put on those 5'10", probably not much more than that, pounds of muscle. But it has to be the right kind of weight, obviously, that he puts on, because he can't lose his best asset, and that's his speed, his 4.3 speed. So that's why that's another reason why they can't just decide to go, all right, I'm going to put on 10 pounds because I'm in the NFL. No, they have to do it the right way. They have to get with the right trainer and utilize the right get in the right program to put on this weight so they don't lose that speed. So look for that story about Calvin Austin III and his physical transformation next year. Of course, he's never going to be a big guy. I mean, to expect that is the impossible, but he's probably going to have to put on at least a little bit of weight to survive in the NFL. So I thought it was a interesting enough rookie camp, but nothing too exciting. But, and this is the transition into my next topic, the thing that I was surprised by that I didn't realize until basically the rookie camp was over is that the reporters were all up in the players' faces again. Like it was 2019. As these guys were being interviewed, they had all these microphones in their face. The reporters were right there. I honestly never thought I'd see that again. When COVID hit, how limited the access was in 2020 with COVID. I mean, everything was Zoom. The reporters weren't even really allowed in the building at the facilities, as far as I remember. And if they were, it was really limited, and they were, not allowed in the same room essentially with these guys. So that was 2 years ago. Of course, last year it was more of a press conference, kind of a setup with these guys. If they were inside, they were at a table. If they were outside, the reporters were standing far away, and the players were answering questions that way. So it was pretty cool to see again. I think as fans, I think you want that kind of access to a player. You want to see them interacting with reporters that way. I think reporters need that too, because the one-on-one kind of interviews, the up close and personal interviews, that's where you get unique stories and unique perspectives and unique quotes. The last couple of years, it was like everybody was printing the same quotes or typing the same quotes. There was nothing really original, and the access was so bleak a couple of years ago. I mean, there were Steeler fans that were worried about misinformation. Are they giving us everything? Are they giving us the correct information, or are they keeping things from us? I don't know why anybody would worry about it that much. It's not that deep of a topic, but there were fans and people behind the curtain that were kind of worried about, oh man, are we getting the true story out of training camp? Because you really couldn't have access to training camp in 2020. So I think that's important, and you couple that with the fact that training camp's back at Latrobe this year, and as far as I know, there's going to be full access for the fans. That's pretty cool, and I don't know how they're going to handle the locker room situation moving forward. Are reporters ever going to be allowed in locker rooms again? I don't know, because obviously when they were interviewing these guys at rookie camp, they were outside. So we'll see how that goes. But it's a return to normalcy, I guess. And again, I think it's important for access to these players, because the last couple of years, the most access we've really had to these guys has been on social media. And I love social media, and I love most of the attitudes of the players on social media, because I'm a bit of a smarty pants online, and I like players that like to yuck it up. But it's cool to see them being interviewed and how they act in a professional setting with reporters. So that was another good thing that I took from our rookie camp. So again, there really wasn't much to tell from rookie camp. Your usual highlights: the quarterbacks, dropping back, throwing short little passes, the receivers doing their thing, the defensive backs, whatever. Nothing exciting, but nothing traumatic either. So it felt like a true rookie camp from before 2020. So that was nice to see. And of course, my final topic of the night, before I open things up to questions and comments, is our old buddy Antonio Brown, who was in the news again on Monday, and it seemed like it only lasted a day. That's how things are now with the 24/7 news cycle. You don't a story might be hot, but it doesn't stay hot for very long anymore. But Monday, that was the topic du jour. It was Antonio Brown, because at some point during the early afternoon, he tweeted, "I want to retire a Steeler," and that set the ball in motion. Everybody just went nuts. Oh my God, should they do it? Should they bring Brown back? Because at that point, it kind of felt like he was saying on Twitter that he wanted to come back and play for Pittsburgh, and that led to a bunch of should we do it? Should they bring him back? And then of course he clarified and said he just wants to retire a Steeler after his playing days are over, if they aren't over already. Who knows with that guy? But one of those one-day contract kind of things, and there, the opinions on it are all over the board. As a fan, I mean, I would, as far as him playing for the Steelers again, you can't do that. I mean, because you have all new quarterbacks, including a rookie first-round pick. You don't want to screw that guy up, and you have a bunch of young receivers who are impressionable. You don't want to screw them up. Not that they would be under Antonio Brown's spell and do everything he does, but certainly you don't want somebody like Brown, who still has yet to accept the fact that he's not a top receiver in the NFL anymore. You don't want that guy influencing a locker room, a wide receiver room, a young quarterback. You don't want that. So, I mean, it'd be a fun story to write about. I would love the reactions. I would love seeing the reactions by the fans and the media, but that's never going to happen. As far as him retiring a Steeler, like Brian said on Monday, it wouldn't be a big, of course he could retire a Steeler. It's really not that big a deal. I had some time to think about it since Monday. I mean, if they did it tomorrow, I wouldn't care, I remember reading this Twitter thread. It was on Monday or Tuesday. This one fan just going on and on about the integrity and what it means to be a Steeler, and the sacrifices and the honor and back, all this stuff. I think it lasted he went on for 2 or 3 tweets, and then somebody just kind of said, "Yo, bro, it's not that serious." And I just started laughing. That kind of put things in perspective. It's really not that serious. I mean, if Antonio Brown, forms a relationship with the Steelers again, even after his career, and retires a Steeler and becomes some kind of an ambassador, is it really going to affect anybody's lives? I mean, come on. Are you going to stop watching them? Are you going to stop going to the games? Are you going to, burn his jersey or burn your terrible towel or whatever the people do when they're boycotting stuff now? It's not going to affect my life at all if he retires a Steeler, and you got to, eventually his number 84 is going to be in their Hall of Honor. He more than likely is going to make it in the Hall of Fame someday. So, we're probably going to have to embrace the guy again eventually as fans, so it's not going to be the end of the world if it happens. So that kind of made me laugh when that guy said that, yo, bro, it's not that serious. And really, it's not. I mean, it's just a simple little gesture. It's, I'm not saying sports aren't important. I'm not saying the Steelers aren't important, because obviously they are. They meant so much to me. I'm here right now doing this because I've been a Steeler fan since the age of 7, and it ultimately led to this opportunity to write and do podcasts and et cetera, et cetera. And it's important to a lot of people around the world, but it's not life or death, not to sound like, I'm above it all, like I say just about every week, but it's not so serious that it's what they always say about sports. It's a toy department of journalism, right? So of the newsroom, whatever. So, if Antonio Brown wants to retire a Steeler, go ahead, do it. Maybe it'll make him a better person. Maybe he'll grow up. Maybe he'll realize, the end of his career could have been so much better. His legacy could have been so much better if he would have, been less selfish throughout his career. So, but the thing about that, and this kills me every time something like this happens. And Brian sort of gave me the idea during the hangover on Monday when he was kind of going back and forth with people in the live chat saying, why are we still talking about Antonio Brown? And he was like, hey, because it's my job to talk about Antonio Brown. And that's what kind of gave me the idea to write the story that was published on Friday. It's like every time something like this happens, I can only speak for Behind Steel Curtain, but the people who interact with us are always like, why are we talking about this? Well, because the whole world's talking about it. Everybody who has anything to do with the Steelers, either in the media, as fans, whatever, are talking about Antonio Brown and what he tweeted. It would be silly not to talk about it, to just bury your head in the sand and talk about other stuff. You got to go where you can't go against the grain too often when you're doing this kind of stuff. You got to go where the story is. And that was the story. Him saying out of the blue that he wanted to retire a Steeler, and what that all meant to everybody at that moment, that's a story. That was a big deal. So you have to talk about it. And to me, as a writer, podcaster, yeah, but my biggest passion is writing. And to me, I'm always like, just number one, it's something juicy to write about. And believe me when I tell you, I don't care what anybody says. Just for the story alone, I would give my right arm right now for them to sign Colin Kaepernick. I mean, that to me, that's like, I would OD on social media after like 3 days. I would not leave my phone. My phone would just be like it would melt into my hand. I would just be constantly on social media, interacting with people, or just watching people just go nuts. That's like, that would just be such a, I don't care if his right arm falls off and he can't throw a football anymore. Just the fact that he's on the Steelers would just be so delicious. You're talking like, stuffing and like all the simple carbs, like give it to me, So like, that part of me just like loves these kind of things. It's just such a great, delicious story to write about. So, when these kind of things happen, you have to talk about it. Le'Veon Bell, if he's in the news for something, you have to talk about it. Terry Bradshaw's in the news, you have to talk about it. If Ben Roethlisberger does some interview and says, I am angry at how my career in Pittsburgh ended, you think we're going to ignore that? No, we're going to talk about it. If he writes some book 5 years from now or 10 years from now, or whatever, and he talks about how he didn't like how his career ended here and he has bad blood with the Steelers, we're going to write about it. We're going to do podcasts if I'm still doing this for Behind Steel Curtain. So, I don't know why people. I remember right after the season, when the playoffs were still going on, I was writing some stories about Tom Brady losing in the playoffs, and then he retired, then he didn't retire, and I think I wrote 2 or 3 articles. And somebody was like, "Oh, these articles are so exhausting." I'm like, "Really? We publish like 80 articles a week, and you can't take 2 a week about Tom Brady? I think you need to go seek medical treatment." It's really not that big a deal. So there's plenty, as I say at the beginning of every show, as we all say at the beginning of all of our shows, we call this the one-stop shop for a reason, because there's everything for you. There's the sensationalized stories, like just one retired Steeler. There's stuff about, the 5 technique defensive lineman, the 4-3 covered whatever defense, schedules, draft picks, mock drafts. We have it all. So, you could pick and choose what you want to read about, what you want to listen to. That's what makes this site so great. That's what makes Steeler Nation so great. There's so many different interests and so many different angles that fans are interested in. So at the 30-minute mark, I think I've rambled on long enough. So now I'm gonna take 10 minutes or so and answer your questions, read your comments. Let's see what we have as I was rambling on about everything. Let's see what we got here. And of course, a lot of people are going nuts over my mere suggestion that signing Colin Kaepernick would be entertaining. There you go. That's what I mean. That's why it would just be awesome. Let's see what we have here. And Ryan O'Toole asks, how long until AB is broke? I don't know. I mean, it's sort of harder for athletes to go broke today. I mean, he's worth what, 20, 30 million. It's hard to blow through that amount of money, but you never know. Hopefully for his sake, he gets his act together in time to have a nest egg for him and his family, his children, down the road. So I think one day, provided he doesn't totally, go off the rails, and hopefully I don't want to see that happen to anybody. I think eventually they're gonna forge a new understanding with each other, meaning the Steelers and Brown. But if they don't, they don't. I mean, I think we all like a redemption story. I mean, it's easy to be mad at the guy right now, but if he turns his life around and becomes this great, caring, compassionate person, and we'd forgive him. That's just how we are as a society. I think that's how most human beings are. We're eager to forgive people. It might not seem that way on social media because everybody's always so mean and angry and full of emotion. But I think deep down we all want to, have companionship, have a community, et cetera, and we're willing to give people a second chance. Whether it's famous people, our friends, our family, we're always willing. We're always, I think, deep down we desire that kind of thing. So I think eventually, if he wants it, he and the Steelers can be a family again. Obviously, the Rooneys are going to accept him with open arms, provided, he changes his ways and shows that he's a different person eventually. And let's see what we have from Steeler Freak. I found the Jeff Hartman article about Steelers needs to be both honest and informative. They still have many needs to be Super Bowl contenders. Well, that's a fairly accurate thing. I mean, it's, again, what are their, I think they're near the bottom in the AFC as far as odds of making the Super Bowl this year. I don't think anybody, most rational, logical fans are going to honestly agree that, hey, look, this team still has a lot of work to do. But it's a young team, and we've seen it in the past. 2 or 3 players at key positions can make a world of difference, specifically the quarterback position. So I've been saying this for a while. You find the right guy sooner rather than later, and that will go a long way in making the Steelers contenders again. But yeah, they have work to do. But they're young on the line. They're young everywhere, basically. So a lot can happen in a year or two. But I like the fact that they're a young football team. To me, that's where you want to be. Because you don't want to be one of those teams that has like a bunch of veterans, a bunch of young guys, and the veterans aren't so great. The young guys are they're not so great either, and you're trying to make that work. You don't want to be in the middle when it comes to your roster. You want either to have a veteran laden team that's totally ready to go and is a true contender like they had in like the late 2000s when they were going for their second Super Bowl, or you want to have a young team with a young quarterback and they're all growing at the same time, or there's the potential is there for them to grow at the same time, like you had in like maybe 2001 or 1992, Cowher's first year. 2001 was the sort of the resurrection of the roster after they had their 3-year run of playoff-less seasons. They kind of replenished the roster through the draft. They brought in guys like Hines Ward, Shea Townsend, Alan Faneca. I can go on and on and on. And they were and that was kind of like the core of the team that won Super Bowl 40. So, as far as the makeup of the roster, as far as age, I think they're in a good spot. So we'll see what happens. Brian Brown says, I'm sorry, I chuckled. It was an accident. I think the Steelers can win the Super Bowl. It's not delusional. Run the ball and play elite defense. That's the path to number 7. Well, I think you still want to. I think the quarterback spot will go a long way in determining how good they are. I mean, you need a quarterback to win the Super Bowl, and right now it doesn't look like they have that guy for 2022. Maybe they do, but right now you can't make that determination. Right now they look like the 4th best team in the AFC North, but we'll see what happens. Shane Giggle says, worried about the run game if Najee Harris goes. And of course, he's a starter. He's a Pro Bowler. He rushed for 1,100 yards last year, right? It was 1,100. He's their franchise running back. But, what do you do as far as the depth? You go out and get one of these veterans that maybe is not ready to accept being a backup. I mean, we saw how that went last year with Melvin Ingram. Benny Snell, I think, is as far as backup running backs in the NFL, I think it's hard to get much better than him. I'm not saying he's great, but this idea that you have like a 1A and 1B running back thing, and it's just not all that realistic. So I think Benny Snell is more than an adequate backup. He's not great. He's not going to set the world on fire, but most backups don't. So Sailor Chick 46 says the O-line is key to any success. Yeah, that's. I mean, 2 years ago, the old offensive line was falling apart. Last year, the young offensive line had major growing pains. So, they made some key moves this offseason by signing James Daniels, Mason Cole. So Kevin Dotson, Shannon has expressed some concerns about his compatibility with their new blocking scheme. I guess they're more of a zone kind of blocking team now. And Kevin Dotson's more of a mauler. So that might be a bad fit. We'll see. But he certainly is a promising young lineman. But, as far as the running game specifically, and the life of whoever happens to be the quarterback, the health of who happens to be the quarterback this year, the line has to take a major step in 2022. But the good news is, no matter who the quarterback is, they're going to be more mobile than Big Ben was at the end. So that's one good thing anyway. Ryan O'Toole says the O-line killed the offense the past 2 seasons. Yeah, that's one of the things that did it. That's for sure. Let's see. Jeff Hewitt says, in the Canada system with a mobile quarterback, is a core 4 value higher than we're expecting? Well, I think he is. One thing about him, and Shannon brought this up. I think he did, but he's more of a finesse kind of a blocking lineman, and so maybe that kind of a zone blocking thing might suit him better. We'll see, but we're going to find out a lot minicamp and training camp. So that's something to look forward to and to keep an eye on. And Mr. Woodside says that Benny Snell is a number 3. Well, I think Brian and I, specifically Brian, has I'll give him credit for this. He said this in the past. Is there really a big difference in the NFL between a number 2 and a number 3 running back? So again, I think this goes back to last year, and with a lot of the concerns about depth at many different positions. I think people, they want to get that ironclad insurance policy when it comes to a backup. They want that, like with Melvin Ingram, they want that guy that, all right, if TJ Watt goes down or Highsmith goes down, Ingram will come in. He's got a track record in the NFL. They'll be fine. They want that kind of a backup. They don't want the young former 4th round pick kind of player as a backup at any position. But that's the reality for most backups in the NFL. So again, I think Benny Snell, I've always thought he was just fine as a backup, and maybe they can go out and get a D'Angelo Williams type of a veteran if they so desire. But again, we saw what happened with LeGarrette Blount. He wasn't happy with his playing time, playing behind Le'Veon Bell when he was at his absolute best. And we all know how Mike Tomlin, and this goes back his entire career with the Steelers, how he loves the bell cow running back, Willie Parker, Mendenhall until he got hurt. Obviously Bell, and then last year Najee Harris. So, if you do bring in a veteran with a resume, he's got to understand that, look, you're getting this percentage of carries, and it's probably going to be less than 10%, maybe 20% if you're lucky. Are you happy with that? And he can't just come back later and say, oh, I want trade or release because I'm not getting more playing time. Because look at how much playing time Ingram got last year, and he still wanted out. So, you bring in a veteran, great, but he better understand and be sincere when he says that he accepts his role. And Mike Tomlin, when they traded Ingram last year, he said point blank, this is why we like to bring in people and get them in our system at a young age and bring them up and allow them to understand their role with the organization. So it's a fine line, or it's a slippery slope oftentimes, whatever I'm trying to say, whatever phrase I'm trying to use. When you bring in a veteran, a proven veteran, you better be sure that he's not going to pull a Blount or Ingram or even a James Harrison and be a bad actor in that locker room. So it's hard to find much better than a Benny Snell unless you're willing to take a risk with a proven veteran who may or may not be willing to accept his role. All right. This is Steeler Freak. That's another Tomlin issue. Unwilling to change the bell cow concept is dangerous, and it says he doesn't care about Harris's health. His agent is already complaining for him. Is he? I don't know. I didn't hear that, but I think Harris's his disposition, his attitude about that might change drastically if the line blocks a lot better for him moving forward. You know, a lot of the problem last year is the line was just so horrible that he had nowhere to run. So, and Steelers, Shrek Johnny's friend says, I'm a Tiger. I guess I've been called worse, but that's actually pretty cool to be called. So thank you. All right. On that note, I'm going to call it a night. I can have some dinner before I go to bed. TMI, I know. It was a great show. It was great talking to you. Until Monday on The Hangover, you guys have a great weekend. And as always, go Steelers. Good night, everyone.